Thank you, Murat. Distinguished guests, excellencies, and friends, welcome to the Caspian Week Summit. As we embark on 2 days of discussions on economic diversification, connectivity, and sustainability, let us be inspired by the Caspian example. Here, diverse nations find common ground and turn geography into opportunity. I want to thank you all for being part of the summit and look forward to insightful conversations ahead. Allow me now to introduce you to our first speaker. It is my great honor to introduce His Excellency Tun Mahathir bin Mohamad, the 4th and 7th Prime Minister of Malaysia, and one of the world's most respected statesmen. A visionary leader and reformer, Dr. Mahathir guided Malaysia's transformation from an emerging economy into a dynamic industrial nation. Over his decades of public service, he has been an unwavering advocate for developing nations and cooperation for a more equitable global order. As honorary president of the Perdana Foundation for Civilizational Dialogue, he continues to champion understanding and shared progress among civilizations. Allow me to hand over to Tun Dr. Mahathir Mohamad, a statesman whose wisdom and experience continue to inspire leaders around the world.
Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum, and may peace be upon you. It gives me great pleasure to address this forum held in Baku, a city where Asia shakes hands with Europe. The Greater Caspian Region has always stood at the crossroads of civilizations. The theme chosen for this summit, Bridging Global North and Global South, is fitting and aptly represents the city and region, what it stood for in history and what it is today and would continue to be so in the future. I wish I'm here in person, and I'm sorry for not being able to do so. Unfortunately, as it had always been said, we plan, but God disposes. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, in my previous visit to Baku, and when witnessing the contrast within, I am reminded about how the world has evolved, how each nation pursues modernity in the race to become part of what we consider to be the civilized world. Whether I am fortunate or otherwise, my years of living had allowed me to witness the changes and evolution the world underwent since the turn of the last century. While changes that benefited mankind and made us optimistic of what holds for the future generation, there are changes which make us equally doubtful. Indeed, we can all spell out how we have evolved from the most basic engineering to the AI generation that we are experiencing today. All these are what we accept as part of the tools, the modern sciences and technological growth to equip us in further modernizing ourselves. If we are unable to grasp and utilize them, we will be left behind, becoming less competitive and, in simple parlance, backward and regressive. I believe this awareness is prevalent in all nations, among their leaders and thinkers. What differentiates one from another is the leadership, their commitment to build their nations and peoples. In that context, I am not too perturbed as peoples too have become very aware of what they expect from their leaders and the proliferation of information that ensured their readiness to dispose leaders who are of no benefit to their well-being. My bigger concern is that what we value or identify as civilization and being civilized seem to be a misnomer, more and more so as time progresses. Ladies and gentlemen, we worry about growing nationalism and protectionism in trade being anathema to globalization and free trade that we are at one time hectored and pushed to embrace. But if we are candid about it, we must admit that adopting both had helped many nations grow alongside their people, a balanced growth befitting our civilization. Unfortunately, today it is nations which preach and in many ways impose globalization upon the smaller trading nations that are now into protectionism and are against multipolarism. And with this, the interests of the smaller nations are ignored. So, at all times, when big nations pursue a model, it has never been about shared prosperity or prospering neighbors. It is back to beggar neighbors. Actually, we have not evolved at all. The imperialism of the past persists, though clothed in numerous different shades and disguises. And as in the past, it continues to choke smaller nations into submission. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, against this background, regional cooperation is more important than ever. While it is not the panacea to the imperialistic economic approach, it can reduce the pain. The Caspian region, with its shared history and geography, can become a strong regional bloc, much like ASEAN in Southeast Asia. By working together on trade, technology, and infrastructure, you can build collective resilience and reduce dependency on external powers and become a vibrant, expanding market. Then work towards cross-regional linkages, the Caspian and ASEAN, the Caspian and the Gulf Cooperation Council. It strengthens South-South cooperation and provides developing nations a stronger voice in global affairs. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I'm also encouraged to see that the Greater Caspian Forum is private sector initiative. It is something which we in Malaysia had experienced in the 1990s, a close collaboration between the government and the private sector, which we dub as the Malaysia Inc., short for incorporation. It worked wonders for us, leading to us charting double-digit growth. However, on the government's part, it must be one with integrity to ensure that public interest is not merely measured in terms of profit per se, but also the social development of its people. Nevertheless, the private sector, with its capacity for innovation and efficiency, moves faster and delivers results. With that in mind, the Greater Caspian Forum will bring tangible plans and strategies instead of mere declaration. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I will not be doing justice when speaking at this forum if I do not remind you and me of the crimes and injustices committed by the leading contemporary civilization. The leader of the civilized world is currently aiding and abetting a pariah state in committing genocide while we stand on the sidelines helpless. There is nothing civilized in what he does. In fact, it is uncivilized and barbaric. Some leaders may grovel before him, seeking his favors and approval. Let us not be with them. And yes, let the Greater Caspian Forum be remembered as a place where new ideas are birthed and shaped for a better future of member nations. But it should also be where conscience, values, and humanity bond and share with the rest of the world the real embodiment of civilization. I thank you.
Thank you very much. It is now my honor to introduce Ambassador Vladimir Nurov, former Minister of Foreign Affairs of Uzbekistan and Secretary General of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, SCO. A seasoned diplomat and statesman, Ambassador Nurov has represented Uzbekistan in numerous countries across Europe, including Germany, Switzerland, Poland, Belgium, Luxembourg, and the Netherlands. His leadership at the Shanghai Cooperation Organization strengthened regional cooperation, security, and connectivity across Central and South Asia. He brings to the Caspian Week Summit a deep understanding of multilateral diplomacy and the evolving dynamics of Eurasian collaboration.
Dear guests, colleagues, and friends, first of all, let me express my sincere gratitude to the organizers of the Caspian Forum for invitation to speak at its opening. I am deeply honored to be part of this significant event, which brings together leaders, researchers, and practitioners from various countries and fields. Unfortunately, circumstances prevent me from attending in person to meet with friends and colleagues with whom we share a long-standing partnership and a common commitment to sustainable development. Nevertheless, I am pleased to have the opportunity to address you today and share ideas that I hope will be useful in our common endeavor. We live in an area of rapid and profound change. The world is becoming increasingly interconnected and simultaneously increasingly vulnerable. That is why this forum is not just a meeting of experts, but a platform for strategic dialogue, where the Greater Caspian region becomes part of the global system of innovation, trade, and governance. This year, the forum is being held under auspices of Greater Caspian Summit, connecting the global North and the global South. And our task today is not only to discuss the changes taking place in the world, but also to shape the direction of these changes. We are meeting at a time that scholars increasingly refer to as the area of polycrisis, when climate, geopolitical, and technological challenges are intertwined and mutually reinforcing. These are not isolated challenges. They are an interconnected web of risk affecting the environment, the economy, and society. But resilience research, from ecology to complex system theory, offer us an important lesson. Interconnected problems require interconnected solution. Networks that amplify risk, if wisely managed, can strengthen resilience. That's why our main theme, global cooperation, climate, peace, and resilience in a changing world, is not simply ambitious. It reflects the new understanding of interdependence that defines the 21st century. Today, we clearly see climate security is national security. Peace is created not in diplomatic halls, but also in a reliable food system, clean water, and sustainable energy. And global cooperation is not an ideological choice, but a necessary condition for survival. Our forum is taking place at a strategically important moment. just a few days before 47th ASEAN Summit in Kuala Lumpur. It demonstrated that Caspian region is becoming the center of a new global architecture, connecting continents, economies, and scientific schools. Over the coming days, we will discuss 4 interconnected key areas, each of which is of the strategic importance for a sustainable future. First, from climate science to climate security. How can we move from focus to action? How can we transform scientific data into concrete strategies for protecting food, water, and energy system? Second, the new connectivity, trade, data, and intelligence. In the area of digitalization and artificial intelligence, how can we build smart trade routes and resilient digital infrastructure that will benefit cooperation and security? Third, financing the transition. Transformation requires investment. How can venture capital, sovereign wealth funds, and blended finance accelerate the adoption of sustainable development technologies and reduce innovation risk? Fourth, architecture of cooperation, using initiatives such as the UN's Early Warning for All program as example. We should explore how to create inclusive governance system where transparency, fairness, and commitment to action are key principles. The key lesson is clear. In an area of fragmentation, integration is becoming our most valuable currency. The integration of knowledge, resources, and political will. Our goals must go beyond discussions. Let's work together to transform ideas into practical solutions, partnerships, and initiatives that deliver real result. And of course, it is symbolic that we gather under the name of the Caspian Sea. The Caspian Sea does not belong to any one country. It connects civilization, ecosystems, and economies, reminding us that sustainability is a common good and shared responsibility. Our destinies, like the waters of Caspian, are intertwined. The future of humanity depends not on isolation, but on intelligent interdependence and cooperation. Let us together create a new operating system of interaction, a system based not on instability, but on viability, not on division, but on creative cooperation. Thank you for your attention. I wish to participants of the Caspian Forum fruitful work.
Thank you very much. We will now move into the panel discussion that will cover 3 main themes. The first is diversifying economies of the Caspian region and foreign direct investment. The second is expanding trade routes and global supply chains. And the third, political outlook and leveraging a young Caspian demographic. I want to start by introducing the panelists and ask that you switch on your screens. Dr. Claude Begley is the founder and CEO of Swiss Newater, a company pioneering disruptive eco-friendly technologies that produce on-site cleaning and disinfection solutions, tackling 2 UN SDGs, public health and environmental protection. Previously, he served as chairman of the Swiss Post, CEO of DPD, executive vice president of GeoPost, and vice president Europe at TNT Express. His leadership extended to the global board of DHL Express, where he drove growth and integration across international markets. Dr. Begley began his career with the Swiss Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the International Committee of the Red Cross, later combining his humanitarian grounding with corporate and political leadership. Having lived and worked in over 100 countries, he embodies a rare blend of global perspective, strategic vision, and humanistic values, bridging business sustainability and diplomacy. Linar Yakupov, chairman of the board at Tumar Venture Fund, a leading venture platform dedicated to scaling disruptive innovation across frontier markets. He has a distinguished career spanning global finance, investment promotion, and strategic advisory role. Linar brings rare depth of experience. He He has served as president of the Islamic Business and Finance Development Fund, advised government agencies, and steered investment development initiatives. At Tumar Venture Fund, his leadership is centered on identifying mission-driven, high-growth companies and catalyzing their access to capital markets and strategic partnerships. His track record in both the public and private sectors position him uniquely at their intersection of innovation and impact investment. Murat Saitsnapov, president of the Greater Caspian Association, based in Switzerland, with a career spanning international trade, logistics, and regional cooperation, is a leading voice for the Greater Caspian Region, championing cross-border infrastructure, connectivity, and business diplomacy. As the driving force behind the Caspian Week Forum, he has brought together public and private sectors, investors, and policymakers to spotlight the strategic values and opportunities of the region. He will share insights on how the Caspian-Eurasian corridor can serve as a catalyst for regional integration, sustainable development, and global investment. I would like to begin, Murat, by asking you, moving beyond hydrocarbons, what are the opportunities that you see when it comes to logistics and the force and how it can enable diversification and smart trade systems to attract investment and spread growth across the region?
Thank you, Oscar. Thank you for the introduction. I'm very grateful to Dr. Mahathir bin Mohammed to make a speech, a keynote speech for our forum and summit. On 10th of July, he just turned 100 years old, and I would like to wish him great health for another 100 years and great success in all his initiatives. He was a creator of the Malaysian economic miracle in 1980s and 1990s. He was for 24 years the Prime Minister of Malaysia. He was the chairman of non-alignment movement. He's really the voice on the global scene, like from the same category like Nelson Mandela, for example. And I'm really happy that he participated, although virtually, in our event. And best wishes for Dr. Mahathir Mohamad. Also, I'm grateful to our good friend, Ambassador Vladimir Norov. He is now in the plane between China and Uzbekistan, but he also did for us the keynote speech. Besides his political career and the diplomacy, he is also the chairman of the AI Association of the Central Asia. And AI, artificial intelligence, this is now the future and also future for the region. Now I will do a brief overview of what is happening in the region. I will start from the country from where I'm originally from Turkmenistan. And Turkmenistan, you know that it's one of the 3 officially recognized neutral countries in the world. One is Switzerland from Vienna Congress, 1815. Then it is Austria after World War II, but Austria would like to, looks like they exit this club. And then Turkmenistan from United Nations General Assembly, 1995. Just 14 days ago, exactly 2 weeks ago, we did jointly with the permanent mission of Turkmenistan to the United Nations in Geneva and the Geneva Neutrality Forum, the conference in the United Nations dedicated for this to the Swiss neutrality and generally to the neutrality. And we believe that such exchanges are very important because we can share our opinions and we can really try to get the best from various countries. And the Turkmenistan economy is developing well. It's a 6+% growth of the GDP. There are new investment projects announced for the gas processing, for example, construction of the urea plant with more than 1 million ton capacity. Also, there is a new life for the Trans-Caspian gas pipeline, with the project which is everybody discussing since the beginning of 1990s. Looks like now there is a real opportunity to materialize it. Also, there is another supergiant project called TAPI, Turkmenistan, Afghanistan, Pakistan gas pipeline, also actively developing. And we believe that during the next 2-3 years, we will see really good progress on these for these projects, which will bring diversification for the export routes for the Turkmenistan natural gas. And Turkmenistan has fourth biggest in the world natural gas reserves, by different estimations in the range between 20 to 30 trillion cubic meters. Cubic meters, not cubic feet. It's the fourth biggest in the world after Iran, Qatar, and Russia, who is a relatively small country of Turkmenistan. Now, of course, our champion of the region is Uzbekistan, and Uzbekistan developing extremely well. And during the last 9 years, it's a constant changes, constant opening of the country. I hear a lot of good references from the international community, from the investors who are already doing business in Uzbekistan, from the people from Uzbekistan. I think this trend will continue and hope for many, many years. And Uzbekistan are really the rising star of the region. And there's also privatization program going on. Recently, just 3 weeks ago, there was one good project which was signed between the DP World, Dubai Ports, and Invest Tashkent, which is a subsidiary of the Tashkent municipality, to create a logistics hub and a dry port in Tashkent. I think this is also, it was investments approximately $285 million. And there are many such projects also going on and initiated and being developed. Now I will move to Kazakhstan, which is the biggest country of the region by territory, is almost 2.6 million square kilometers. Country is traditionally rich and very important in for oil and gas. And there are several supergiant projects going on for oil and gas exploration, like Kashagan, Karachaganak, Tengiz, and many others. There are more than 100 oil and gas fields which are producing oil and gas. And this country is very important for the world economy, especially in the difficult and changing times. Now, Azerbaijan, our hosting country, this time we are gathering virtually, but it was supposed to be the live event in Baku, which we hope we will do next spring. Azerbaijan is developing very well, and I think the biggest achievement during the last months is signing memorandum between Azerbaijan and Armenia in the White House with the moderation of Donald Trump. Which already brought the peace to this area, but also this is very vitally and critically important for the long-term strategy, long-term development. And as a part of this memorandum, the countries decided jointly to implement the project Zengezur Transport Logistics Corridor, which is also very important for the region, is bringing a new direction for the transit and for various cargos, particularly from the Central Asia. And I believe that this project should be very successful, and it's starting now. And but most important is that finally there is a peace in this region, and when you have a peace, then you can build a prosperity for the region, and which is now going on. And I saw a lot of information and presentation from Azerbaijan government how they are now rebuilding Karabakh, how it's going on now. And with the smart cities, with the new technologies, with schools and with education system, it's really impressive. And I wish all the best for all these initiatives for Azerbaijan. Now coming to Tajikistan. The economic boom is starting in Tajikistan. I just was 1 week ago in Dushanbe Investment Forum. And in July, I was also at First International Glacier Conference organized by United Nations and the government of Tajikistan. Really a lot of possibilities for business in the real estate and the tourism industry. There are the highest mountains in the area are in Tajikistan with up to almost 7,500 meters, and there is a great possibility for the ski resorts, for the various type of tourism. But on top of this, Tajikistan is the most green country in the region. Is 99%. Imagine 99% of the energy produced in Tajikistan is green, and they have huge hydropower resources. And I was speaking in the session during the Dushanbe Investment Forum, and the first Deputy Minister of Finance told that only 5% of the hydropower resources by now are being utilized. Imagine what is the potential. The sky is the limit, and there are a lot of opportunities. Of course, the question is what to do with this energy if it will be produced. Tajikistan having more than 10 million people. Of course, Tajikistan can export electricity to the neighboring countries. But on top of this, there is a new project which we are participating, which has been starting now, is the creation of the green data centers in Tajikistan. And in July, President of Tajikistan announced that it will be created a regional AI center under the umbrella of United Nations. And how to fit this AI center? The solution is the green energy and particular hydropower. And I think here it will be excellent combination, energy from hydropower feeding the data centers, which will create computing power for AI development in Tajikistan, in the region, but also all over the world. And no need to build nuclear power stations, no need to burn coal, no need to burn oil and gas. Hydropower is there. And potential is it's only 5% now utilized. There is potential to do it 20 times more. This is about Tajikistan. Also, during the Glacier Conference, we initiated or proposed to initiate the new project, which is called water credits. Because water is much more important for this region than carbon dioxide. And if there is international carbon credit system already operating for many years, it's really bringing benefits for the green projects and for Tajikistan, in particular for the region, and also for the other places in the world. Potentially it could be good to create the water credit system. Now we go a little bit further. Kyrgyzstan. Before Kyrgyzstan was known for its permanent revolution going on. Every several years, governments were changing, the new people were coming, and then the whole story was starting from the beginning. But now it's already a big achievement also on the political stability in Kyrgyzstan. We see that the new government, which I think you know the story, that the president of Kyrgyzstan, he was released from jail by the crowd and he was elected. And now he's bringing he saw all sides of the life. And he's, what we see at least, he's very reasonable, very moderate, and then he is trying to bring all the best possible to his country. And we see the boom of the foreign direct investments. We see the boom of international businessmen coming to the country. And Kyrgyzstan, it's known as a Switzerland of the Central Asia. It's a beautiful nature. There is a Iskoy Lake. I was participating in the several intergovernmental commissions with Kyrgyzstan from the Swiss side. I visited Kyrgyzstan as a part of the Swiss delegation, and I have a lot of friends there. And it's a really beautiful country, and there was a huge potential, of course, for tourism, also hydropower, also a lot of mountains and a lot of water in the mountains. But besides that, metals and minerals. And this is another topic I would like to add, that the whole world is crazy now about critical minerals. And we remember that there was a famous Ukrainian deal on the critical minerals for $500 billion, which nobody was able to identify. Where are these critical minerals, for which amount, and so on. There is a huge potential in the Central Asia, in the countries like Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, Tajikistan, and Kyrgyzstan. Cumulatively, $800 billion proven reserves of the critical minerals and the rare earth metals. And as we see now, during the last several months, there are a lot of active movements from the side of United States, American delegations coming to the region. China was traditionally very strong there. China also increasing their presence in the region. Also from European Union, we see that European Union ready to invest 12 billion euro for the logistic connectivity of the Central Asia. And besides oil and gas, which was traditional wealth of our region, now we have critical minerals and rare earth metals, which for me is even more important than oil and gas. That's why we're expecting the boom in that field. It will be again kind of the great game version 3.0 or 3.1 or 3.2, because again our region it's now not a battlefield, it's more like a field for economic cooperation, but sometimes competition, which is good to the region. And countries of the region now, they're welcoming all partners. There are no limitations on the geography, there are no limitations on the countries, on the regions. Everybody welcome to help to develop this great potential. Afghanistan, I will touch a little bit. We know that everybody in the world, they were shocked when like 3 years ago, more than 3 years ago, there was a change of government in Afghanistan. It's not yet recognized by majority of the countries, but the good progress is going on. But what the new government, the Taliban government, brought to the country is a peace and stability. You will be surprised, but now country became very safe in comparison to what was before. And now you can cross the country without any problem. Of course, the question is peace and stability, that's nice. Where is prosperity? Prosperity is a different story. But what we see now, there is a lot of interest from all main stakeholders, many of them, to go and do business with Afghanistan. Of course, it's a very long route and it will take time. And even this Turkmenistan, Afghanistan, Pakistan, India pipeline, TAPI pipeline, which was supposed to be financed by Asian Development Bank, with a budget approximately $10 billion. Unfortunately, now that scheme is not working because new government of Afghanistan still not recognized. And then, of course, development banks and investors, they are not ready to go to the non-recognized, dealing with a non-recognized government. But positive developments are going on here. And I hope that in the very nearest future, first of all, we will see economic boost of the economic development of Afghanistan, but also the situation with which is now attracting criticism, like women's rights, education, and so on, will be somehow sorted out. And I believe there are opportunities for this. And in 2020, in January in Davos, we did the peacemaking roundtable for Afghanistan. And we've heard that time a lot of opinions. And here we can also participate and contribute to this process. Now, for the Central Asia, I think I've covered everything, and Azerbaijan and Afghanistan. I can touch a little bit Georgia, and by that I will pass the microphone to the next speaker, to Lenar. But Georgia, there is still political turbulence going on, as we see. Nevertheless, Georgia was a champion in the region, in the Greater Caspian region, for attracting foreign direct investments. The Georgian government, they were always welcoming foreign investors and foreign partners. And I hope this political turbulence situation will be resolved, and we will see again the boom in the economic development of Georgia. But there's a huge potential for tourism industry, like only mentioning Batumi, which is the jewel of the Black Sea, and it's huge potential for logistics, infrastructure, and transit. for the various routes like Belt and Road Initiative, for the Trasica, which is now again revitalized by European Union, and many other opportunities. And what I see also that foreign investors invest in continuing. Like 1 year ago, the Abu Dhabi port, they bought the control stake in the Tbilisi dry port for container terminal, which is a good sign that still there is a big interest in the particular logistic infrastructure. On that, I would like to stop, and I'm very happy to pass the microphone to Linar, my good friend and our board member. And then Oscar, please, you moderate further. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much. I was thinking maybe it would be a good segue to talk about water. It's interesting that you say that water is more important than carbon dioxide. And I know Dr. Bigley is quite the pioneer in water innovation, and water management is becoming quite the political and industrial incentive that enables so much in the region and globally. I wanted to ask you, Dr. Bigley, if you can see how turning water scarcity into an opportunity and what can be done to spark a water tech industry in the region, and what lessons can be learned from Switzerland.
Yes, please, Dr.
Yeah.
Bigley.
Okay, thank you. I will be extremely short. As Murat very well explained, the region of Central Asia is very much water dependent. We have two countries which have abundant possibility to use water because they are the water tank of the whole region. This is Tajikistan and Kyrgyzstan. And the others are facing a deficit of water. During the Soviet time, it was decided, depending on the 5-year plan, to deviate the water, for example, to Kazakhstan if they wanted wheat, or to Uzbekistan if they wanted cotton. Now that each of those countries have become independent, you do have some difficulties in finding agreement how to share that common resources. And the countries which are upstream are of course favored because they're the ones who decide if they want to build dams and all of that. And the countries which are downstream, they have whatever is left, plus the fact that very soon those rivers would go into the desert and evaporate and sometimes even not reach the sea. So there is an absolute need to agree among the countries on a blue piece how to share that common resources. And there is also a need to define which part of the economic development will be linked with water. Typically, if you take Uzbekistan, you have a lot of cotton. Logically, you develop the textile industry. But unfortunately, the textile industry implies a lot of water, which the country has not. So among the countries in the region, there is really a need of how to share, how to optimize the usage of the water, because sometimes with less liters, you can have more yield, and this is where the technology enters. And this is one of the fundamental things in order to ensure prosperity. I stop here so that my other colleagues can also speak.
Let me bring Linar into the discussion. You work with investments and VCs, and I wanted to hear your thoughts on the opportunities with SMEs and startups and how that can be encouraged in the region with new technologies and how to bring in investment from other countries into the region.
Thank you, Oscar, and very good morning, ladies and gentlemen, dear participants of this forum. Basically, Murat has covered quite a lot about the region and from different perspectives, including the investment. What I see now is happening in Central Asia and other part of the Caspian region is a revival of the investment. And for me, within their independence of last 30 years, I think this is like second attempt or second phase of both inflow of huge FDIs and privatization, and recently the PPP projects, which are taking place very rapidly. And as Murat said, Uzbekistan today seems to be the leader, which is attracting the most, and with other countries also catching up, because I think what the difference between investment processes which were taking place back in 90s after all of those countries gained their independence, and now is entirely different approach in terms of building a country with new visions and being the part of global supply chain, and bringing the latest initiatives and achievements, which mostly our Caspian countries or Central Asian countries built on the knowledge from Southeast Asian countries, from the West, and from GCC. For last 20-30 years, there was a lot of how to call it, initiatives and efforts to build a new elite, or I shall call a new generation of people who got to be educated in different countries with a global perspective and approach. And I think the human resource and the potential of the human resource is the most important aspect that allows all those countries to be so attractive from investment perspective. Yes, natural resources, they were there always. Some of them have gas, some of them have oil, some of them have, as it is very important to mention today, the rare earths, metals, and things like that. But the most important thing is the younger population that, Oscar, you yourself were saying in your introduction speech. So now what we have is basically a very well educated new generation, which are already in the government, which are already in the private sector, in big corporations, and with good English, with good access to global markets, with good links, and with excellent relationships within the communities that they were studying in the West, in the Asia, and here and there, in Turkey, in UAE, and other parts of the world. So basically, today we have countries which are ready to start to entirely different mode of investments. So this is where I think the critical mass of people who are able to handle these investment processes are there. And once again, I just want to mention that this is the most important part. So given all those things, definitely we should look at a relationship, not only country to country, but to the regional development that Tun Dr. Mahathir was mentioning. We are currently, as a Caspian Association, are looking at block-to-block relationships, whereby we are talking about Caspian region and ASEAN, Caspian region and GCC countries, or MENA at large, whereby even when it comes to, yes, FDI is a good thing. When big companies are coming, they are doing big projects, all good. But when we talk about developing the human resource, human potential of those people living in these countries, and especially the youth, this is where all the startups and venture business and all those come in. So what we realize, given the basic infrastructure, basically all of the countries now, including Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Azerbaijan, Tajikistan, one of the latest comers, even Kyrgyzstan and the rest of those countries, they have a lot of initiatives on like IT parks, IT technologies, now a lot of AI, the fintech, edtech, you name it. I mean, so many youngsters are coming out with brilliant ideas, whereby they have kind of mixture of education and scientific base that was gained within the within Soviet Union, and now with the access to the global world, we have very talented people with great potential and excellent projects that we decided the best way to help to invest or co-invest and help them to take to different markets of our neighboring platforms or blocks like MENA, GCC, ASEAN, or whatever. So, for example, recently, or starting last January, we launched Al Farabi Innovation Hub in Saudi Arabia, in Riyadh, with a single purpose of bringing Central Asian talents and startup companies to very dynamic and rapidly developing Saudi market. But it wasn't only one-way traffic. We did also invest to the companies which from Saudi in fintech, edtech industries, and then we open up markets of Central Asia for them as well. So it is a two-way traffic, and the same we are planning to do now with ASEAN countries, and hopefully the event that we are planning in April next year in Langkawi in Malaysia will be one of those events whereby a lot of potential, a lot of companies with great potential to explore the regional markets will be joining us from both sides, from ASEAN and from Caspian. And the different events should be also organized with GCC countries and so on that we are also having our pipeline. So yes, the countries, they have their human potential, they have brilliant ideas, they have their startups, which are very hungry, very eager to capture international markets. They are doing quite okay in their own markets, and they need broader global perspective and other regional markets. So what are the enablers? Yes, enablers are the basic infrastructure that I mentioned that basically every country has now, and they keep expanding it. For example, I think just a couple of days ago in Uzbekistan, they launched second phase of IT Park, which is one of the biggest platforms for all the startups and new companies. The same with Tajikistan, where the AI quarter within Dushanbe is being launched under UNESCO and all under United Nations initiatives, and Murat is one of the active players of those. And the same is taking place in Azerbaijan, for example, in Baku. We had a number of events, and they are big players. They are very strong venture capital funds within the region. But what they need is a global perspective. So at the same time, we have international institutions which started coming to the region. So we as Tumar Venture or Whitehall Capital, for example, are trying to be kind of a bridge for cross-border investments and cross-border introduction of companies. But also, I wanted to mention that most of the countries within Caspian region are Muslim countries. And mostly all of them are member of OIC or Islamic Development Bank. And Islamic Development Bank, with its initiatives on Islamic finance, was very quite aggressive. And most of those countries, they introduce their legal framework for Islamic financial activities, which is broadening also access to the capital, and which is broadening also the relationship within 57 member countries of OIC, which are like perhaps another perspective that we should look at, Caspian region and 57 member countries of OIC, of Islamic Development Bank, and things like that. So I think what is needed today, with all the latest initiatives, with all the inflow of FDI in quite big numbers, what we need today is to support and to bring together different platforms. And I think this is where the Caspian Association and Greater Caspian Summit could become a main platform. And the enablers for this, I mean, a lot of people still don't know about our regions, okay? So I think this is one of the challenges. And I'm very thankful to all the airlines that they started coming in and bringing the tourists. And among those tourists, there are a lot of business people who are opening up those countries and willing to do some business activities. As I said, it's not only about big numbers of FDIs. It's not only about big companies. For example, Saudi has committed more than 30 billion now to development of projects in Uzbekistan, or some initiatives lately on Tajikistan and all those. So these initiatives are good. Yes, they are serving as a platform, or maybe as a how to call it, as a generator of big numbers. But the most important thing, from my perspective, is exchange of human resources. We are also seeing that many of the countries start looking at bringing labor force. It's not only about business; it's also about bringing the labor force from one region to another. We see that there's a lot of how to call it, new companies which are willing or being part of this relationship, and along the way, each of them, they find their own way for development. And with little funds, like for example 20, 30, $50 million funds, you can really do great job in Caspian region. And I think we should do our best to bring up our regions, to bring our countries to the global arena. And I think one of the ways, and especially taking into consideration that the main theme of our today's forum is bridging the global north and global south. This is where those tiny investment activities, venture capital, and all those, they will become the small and big bridges to link those countries. And I think this is where we are working hard, and I believe that there will be big presence of, for example, GCC countries in Central Asia, and the same with Central Asian companies. Their products right now being integrated in the toughest markets in the region, and those achievements are incredible. And I think this is where we should concentrate, and from application point of view, we will be able to achieve great results.
Thank you, Linar. It's very inspiring what you're talking about, and it really is becoming the crossroads between the East and the West. I want to ask, though, all the panelists here, there are so many communalities between the ASEAN countries and the Gulf and the Middle East, culturally, in religion, in history. But many of the young people now, as you mentioned, they are very well educated in the West, and young people, they have ideas of their own. What do you see are the key challenges, and what are the critical priorities to maintain stability in the region and to really leverage on becoming a global hub for the world and a trade hub, and also to stay in the forefront of innovation for the Caspian region?
Yes. Yes, maybe I will start and then I will pass the microphone to Dr. Begle. There are different, let's say, strategies or options how to continue development in this rapidly changing world with all these geopolitical turbulences and so on. And I just give you one example. It's actually related to Switzerland, also related to Turkmenistan, is a neutrality. And with this status, Switzerland managed to really develop the economy. And as we know, like 200 years ago, Switzerland was the poorest country of Europe. And people were running away from Switzerland to various countries, to neighboring countries, even to Russian Empire, just to earn money. And Switzerland got neutral status from 1815 on the Vienna Congress. And then after that, we saw that in the history, of course, how Switzerland developed its economy, its importance on the world scale. And Switzerland today, I think, the richest country in Europe, at least. First, second is extremely important on the geopolitical scene, like United Nations office in Geneva and various international organizations and associations, starting from FIFA, like Basketball Association and so on. Everybody located in Switzerland. There is a trust to the Swiss government, to the Swiss business, and then Switzerland now. On top of this, I think half of the money from the whole world somehow now located in Switzerland. And Turkmenistan, we can see another example that despite all turbulences and problems in the region, Turkmenistan is one of the very few countries after the collapse of the Soviet Union was not involved in any conflicts, internal or external, and it's just steadily, surely developing its economy and positioning on the global scale. And one of the options, it means that from my point of view, one of the options is to keep a neutral or quasi-neutral status, not to be involved in the various big games and problems in the world. And countries of our region, they are enough small and to try to stay away from all this, and then to develop their own agenda, to develop their own economies, and then jointly on the regional level consolidate their needs and demands and position it to on the world scale. Now I would also like to a little bit to turn back to the topic of our Greater Caspian Summit, which is the region Global North and Global South. The initial idea of that was to do this summit, the physical summit in Baku, under chairmanship of Dr. Mahathir Mohamad. Unfortunately, now is going to the virtual mode, but nevertheless, why we decided to do this? Because what we understood that people from the countries, governments, politicians from global north, they completely not understanding the same level people in the global south. And when there is no understanding, there is no interaction, and then everybody trying to push their own targets, own agenda, and then we see the conflicts starting to appear. That's why the idea of this summit was to bring together Global North and Global South and create a platform for the discussion, like our Caspian Week platform, neutral platform for discussions, exchanging ideas between the Global North and Global South. And I would like also to give the floor to Dr. Claude Begle. He has a lot of ideas. He's a very experienced politician. He was working in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Switzerland, the Red Cross. He was in the Swiss National Parliament, and he was actively participating in the International Relations Committees, correct? Yeah, I will give the floor to Dr. Begle. He will give some comments also on this. Global North, Global South.
Thank you, Murat. Yeah, I'm very glad that we go back to the topic of our session. I was also quite inspired by the words of Dr. Mahathir bin Mohamad, which did set the scene quite well. Now, we are at a crossroad where the world, as we knew, is getting dismantled, and of course, something new will emerge. First, maybe a comment on neutrality. When I was working with the International Red Cross in Lebanon, we were criticized. The Muslim, they were saying, you are not neutral because you are the Red Cross. So you are more on the Christian side. And the Christian said, you are not neutral. Your cross is red. You must be with the communists, with the Palestinians. So you always, depending which spectacles put, you are always on the wrong side. And we had built, since the end of the Second World War, a number of multilateral organizations in order to try to iron out those cultural, political, social differences. And now what we see is a dismantling of it. I personally, more than just North and South, I see three big groups of countries. The first would be the Western group of countries, the second would be the emerging countries, and the third would be the least developed economies. Now, talking about the Western countries, we typically have the US, Europe, Canada, Australia, maybe by extension, although it's another culture, Japan, Korea, and little tigers like Singapore or the Emirates. In that group, the characteristics would be the market economy linked with a certain sense of democracy and rule of law. When you try to divide the world in three categories, of course, generalization doesn't give justice to each of the situations, but roughly market economy, democracy, rule of law. Those countries, most of them, are based on a Judeo-Christian cultural base, although there have been also colonial masters which were pretty much unacceptable. The result of that kind of civilization is freedom, personal freedom, which leads to the capacity to think out of the box, innovation, and therefore the master of the technology. That would be the first building block. The second are the emerging countries. So you have typically the BRICS, but also countries like Saudi or the Emirates, Turkey, Mexico, etc. Those, the characteristics is that they work on two legs. There is always a part which is still poor in the countryside, and another part, urban, which is highly developed. Highly developed means as well developed and sometimes even better than the Western economies because they do not have the legacy of the old infrastructure and they could build much more modern. When you come back from Shanghai and you're in New York, you have the feeling that New York is an old city. Those will have to tackle the major internal problem of the disparity between the rich and the poor, where the gap is absolutely huge. Those as well belong to quite a different number of cultures. Some are a little bit authoritarian sometimes, or much. And one of the mistakes which we do is to believe that the technology belongs only to the Western world. We see that China, for example, but India is coming as well, have developed a technology which is absolutely matching the technology of the Western world. So the difference between the Western and the emerging countries is the bigger spread between the very advanced part of those countries and the rest, which is trying to catch up. And the third category would be the less developed countries. They are still very much in poverty. Of course, everybody tries to develop, but actually the gap between the emerging countries and the less developed countries is increasing day by day. Now, the characteristics of those are very fragile state. So you have them, many of them in sub-Sahara Africa, but a little bit in some countries of Latin America or Southern Asia. And the characteristics would be the instability. So with all of that, what do we see? We see a collapse of the globalization and the collapse of the multilateralism. And Dr. Mahathir bin Mohamad expressed extremely well, rebuild. Today, what we see is the selfishness of the big power. I am powerful, I will impose my rule. Even if it is, I will impose the peace. But out of a position of strength, not out of a position of dialogue. So the Make America Great Again is today, of course, the highest illustration of that tendency, but I would say some other countries are exactly following the same line. What is the outcome of the MAGA? Well, there is short-term and there is long-term effect. The most important are the long-term effect. On the short term, yes, you see a reindustrialization of part of the United States, but it's not so clear what is the result of the employment. For the time being, it's not so brilliant. It's not so clear about the predominance of the dollar in the world. For me, the most concerning element is the long-term effect. This is pushing the other countries to look for for new alliances. The traditional allies of the US, Europe is humiliated by what is happening and is going practically nowhere. The Gaza, and again, Dr. Mahathir bin Mohamad expressed it, that has probably pushed a number of Islamic countries to take distance from the previous relationship, because what has happened was going too far. Therefore, we think that there will be more and more South with South cooperation. The fact that now India and China start trading again was not thinkable even 2 years ago. So all of that will lead to new economic alliances, regional alliances, or possibly quasi-global alliance without one or two members. I cannot imagine, thinking of what happened with the COVID, that the World Health Organization would not continue its global role. So there will be new global organization, possibly with the absence or the very reduced participation of some of the traditional Western members. I'm not going to talk about the military alliances, that's a whole topic by itself, but I think the key point on which I want to go is that that change will not be only economical, that change will be a model of society. The Judeo-Christian model will little by little lose importance in what has been the Bretton Woods institutions, etc. And we will see emerging new ways of thinking. For example, the Confucius way of thinking, which goes beyond the pure communist China, but it was a real philosophy. And I think that the new world will see new actors, new alliances, but also based on new moral values and a new way of thinking the society as a whole. And this is probably the major change which is expecting us. So there will be a decline of the Occident, a decline of the US, a decline of Europe, and an emerging, let's say, global South, but it's probably led by the emerging countries. In that, there is a number of challenges which are global. We spoke about the water, there is the global thing of the environment, there is a global health. Some of those issues need a global solution, and they are regional ones. So if I come, just to close my opinion, on the Caspian region, I see a deal and a need to create a very strong solidarity among the countries of the Caspian, which is not obvious. When I see how the Eastern European countries were dealing with the West when the Berlin Wall collapsed, there was a Visegrad agreement, but it did not work. Everybody wanted to have a direct contact with the West. And very often the local alliances are dismantled because everybody wants to have a special deal. And again, when you see everybody rushing to Washington, it's again a sign of that. So there is really a need of solidarity because Central Asia, let's say the Greater Caspian, is between the Russian influence, which was historical, the Chinese power coming from the East, the Muslim culture and Arabic or Persian coming from the South, and the importance of the West because of the multinationals, the risk of being dismantled, the risk that everybody makes a separate alliance, that risk is high. So it's very, and there are some tensions coming from the former tribal systems between the countries in the region. So really, there is an appeal to have those countries being together, which is not obvious. And then they should probably work on minerals and hydrocarbon, but they can work on logistics because they are right in the middle of the Euro-Asian platform, and on water. So my plea would be to refuse the model, which is the Western model, or the Chinese model, or the previous Soviet model, now Russian, or the emerging bloc coming from the Islamic world. Try to remain neutral. Try to keep to your old values. Try to be proud of what is coming. They were very good speak about the human capital. Build on that. Remain neutral. Keep cohesion of the region together, and select some points like the logistics, like the water, like the economic development, and together try to impose to all those major actors around Central Asia a common view.
Thank you. I agree with what you say, and some very deep insights you offer. And I wanted to reflect on some of the things that you were saying. The world is truly changing, and I think that for economic growth and for a successful society, you need to have stability, equality of opportunity, and less economic inequality within society. You were talking about the moral values of society. I think it's a strength with having conservative values, and you can see that in Europe with the fertility rates that are plummeting, and but also in Asia. South Korea has very low fertility rates, and I think that it's a difficult question when you talk about national identity and having traditional values and its contradiction with globalization. I just wanted to ask, like, how can you maintain that in a globalized world so that you can have societies that are well functioning and has a cohesive identity, while at the same time not becoming overly nationalistic in a way that creates conflicts?
A very, very quick answer. You had a positive element. You had so far a very powerful dominance of the Western society. We were imposing from the former UK, which were the master of the world, from the current US, a vision of the world based on democracy. Now, is democracy, as we see it, really the only way forward? Question mark. There was a certain way of defining the morality. But there are other ways of looking at society. So probably, in my view, we should distinguish two separate things. Some elements, which is the national characteristics of each of the country, or I would say of each of the people in the country, or each of the tribe. Try to keep as close to the grassroots as possible. You know, for example, in Switzerland, we don't have a national ministry of education, although we are only 9 million people, so that in each part of the country, they cultivate their own culture. But on top of that, develop the sense of consensus. Consensus is the opposite of the I'm right, I will tell you why. Consensus is I'm listening to your version, and let's see if commonly we can get something which push our story a little bit further together. So yes, national pride, provided it doesn't become nationalism, but national pride, national identity, but find a sense of consensus through the dialogue, select a few points, like, for example, water, or like, for example, global logistics in Central Asia, and put each of the parts together so that you have a stronger puzzle, which you can offer to the external partners.
Very good answer. I think to carry on this, to become a little philosophical, when people say democracy, you associate that very closely with freedom of speech and having an opportunity to argue the best ideas in the free marketplace of ideas. You mentioned the word tribalism a couple of times, and I can't help but feel that the West is becoming very tribal with their ideas, where there are very few opportunities for parties to really openly debate what the best way forward is. You choose your side and you stick to that side. And when you look at the US, it has become so tribalistic that the facts are not looked at. And you can question to what extent it is a democracy anymore, in the sense that you have two major parties that really represent the same elitist interests at the end of the day. And I think, you know, what has been the greatness of the West is that it allowed for meritocracy and the best ideas to flourish and the best people to flourish. I think regardless of what economic or political system you have, if you are able to deliver on that, you will succeed economically. I think it's a fallacy to believe that, you know, as long as everybody gets to vote and get the government they deserve through democracy, then automatically the society will prosper. I think there's less and less of a correlation between what we now call democracy and economic prosperity. With the most strongest growing markets in the world today, that could be argued. You're on mute.
No, please.
Okay, I'll be short because I spoke a lot. Democracy is much more than electing people. Democracy is making sure that the real people, the people, bottom, have more say than the elites. And this is why in my country, 4 times a year, you go and vote on a lot of topics, very important ones, like which kind of fighting jet we should buy, American or French or German, etc. As if, by the way, the people were able to make an elaborated decision about that. But anyway, down to should the cows have horn or not. But what is interesting is the fact that you are the government. At any time, you can be opposed by the parliament. But you are a parliamentarian. At any time, the people can vote and discredit you. So it forces you to always be close to the people. It's also a question not only of being elected, but it's a question of attitude. In my country, although each of the ministers, of course, they have a car or they have helicopters, but it would be well seen that they take public bus from time to time to go to the work. So it's a mentality of being at the level of the people and not 3,000 meters above the normal people. This is what means democracy. You were talking about meritocracy. I really would like to challenge if the meritocracy is more currently something of the Western countries. China is very much a meritocracy. Yes, Absolutely. It's not a democracy. Yes, it's authoritarian, but it's very much a meritocracy. So many of the preconceived ideas which we have now are becoming discussable. And
this was my point exactly.
Where for Central Asia, there is an opportunity, because instead of having to choose between pre-established models, which none of them has been invented locally, you now have a chance to have a choice between different ways of looking at the world and to say, well, I'm going to cherry pick. This is okay for me. This is close to my way of thinking. And this from another group of the world is also okay for me. I'm going to build something based on 2 or 3 different feet, not only copying what the West had offered. Now I stop here.
So we have 10 more minutes, I'm told, and I just wanted to open up to any questions from the audience and the Zoom call and make closing statements. Linar, if there are no questions coming in here, then maybe we could, if I could ask you to make some closing comments to this discussion before moving on to Murat.
Thank you, Oscar. And I think we covered quite a lot when it comes to our region and the global challenges. Yes, today we are living in an entirely different world, and it's changing, and it is exciting to be part of all those changes with different new players and new kings and whoever with their crowns, declaring every day some different things and funny things and all those. But I think it's going to be just a short while of the history and humanity as it is, we still will be reasonable to move ahead. So, and I really hope that the initiatives that being taken to integrate our regions will be picked up. And even though Dr. Begle mentioned that we should concentrate on our countries, on our tribes, on our culture and things like that, agree 100%. Preserving the nations and preserving the language, the country, and its people. It's very, very important. I mean, I think we are having different page of so-called globalization. Still, with all the given technologies and know-how, it will never be as before. We can't be just living within our own countries. But I think it is the ability to take best of your neighbors, to take best of even your competitors, and apply it to the development of your own country, of your own region, of your own nation. And you know, in Quran it says, I have created you, Allah says, I've created you by different nations. But it is the beauty that when these nations know how to cooperate, how to work together, how to love each other. And I think this is one of the challenges that all of us are facing. That'll be a little bit from a philosophical point of view. And I strongly believe, and I hope that we will be, all of us will be wise enough to protect and to keep all the achievements that as a humanity we have, and as every country has got, be it culture, religion, identity, nationality, whatever. But at the same time, to be able to cooperate in a bigger way between North and South, South and South, as long as it is for the benefit of all of us, I think it should be fine. Now, I think for us as a Greater Caspian Association, it is very important that we keep pushing and we keep promoting our region on international at the international stage. I think it is very important that Mir has the world has to know the potential of our countries, and we should find the best ways how to cooperate. So right now I'm based in Saudi, in Riyadh, and I see how dynamic are the changes. Everything every day there's some new stuff coming up, and everything is changing with Vision 2030 and all. I couldn't mention about this. So and it is excitement time to rebuild the country. I was very how to call it lucky to be in Malaysia when such things were happening back in 90s. The country was changing. It was becoming an industrialized country, and this and that, with great challenges, especially from society point of view. But I think all the investments, the economic ability, prosperity, this is just to take our nations to certain part of maturity, to certain level, where we would be wise enough to lead and govern our countries, to be responsible. And I think as a Greater Caspian Association, as a Greater Caspian Summit, we will move ahead. And I see as a short-term and long-term strategy for ourselves to link our region to GCC, to MENA, to Europe, to Southeast Asia, to all the ASEAN countries, because I really believe in cooperation. Not necessarily globalization in the way we used to hear about it, but it is cooperation. So we should find all the ways how to cooperate in a very proper and fruitful manner. And God bless us all. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Murat.
Yes, thank you, Oscar. Just a few words. What we are trying to do, and I'm happy that we are moving that direction, that from our traditional focus just on the region, we are going a little bit wider, and we started to discuss neutrality issues like Swiss neutrality. In Geneva, we are now discussing global North and global South cooperation. And I believe that our region, Greater Caspian region, is a crossroads of civilizations, it's logistical crossroads, economical crossroads, very rich region in the oil and gas, critical minerals, rare earth metals, huge and very young and dynamic human capital. And but we should not take the passive role and just wait what the global North and global South, what will happen, let's see, let's wait, and then we adopt. I believe that we need to try to moderate and actively participate in these discussions. I'm telling like we as a region. And in our association, in the Greater Caspian Association, we are happy to do this. And because at least we believe that if parties are actively having positive and constructive discussions, something good will be born from this. And we will continue with this and hope this is today is our inaugural Greater Caspian Summit, bridging global North and global South. We will happy to do this on annual basis, and I think this will bring also and peace and prosperity to our region, but beyond that also. Thank you.
So on my side, 5 points. 1, do not follow obediently one single model which originates elsewhere. Number 2, be yourself with your own values. Number 3, cooperate with your neighbors before you do with faraway countries. Number 4, when you cooperate with others, do with all, not with one or two. The success of the Gulf countries, the Emirates, for example, is precisely to have that diversification of contact without really choosing the one, but working with all. This is also neutrality. And 5, identify common challenges. It could be nature protection. It could be access to rare resources. It could be water. It could be future of AI. And then focus all the energy of the region in developing common solution to those issues. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was a very good summary and a great message. Thank you, Murat, for inviting me to host this session. And would you like to say a few closing words before we sign off?
Well, I believe it was a great session, and we had really not only experts, we had famous politicians like Dr. Mahathir Mohamad, like Ambassador Vladimir Norov. He was the Secretary General of Shanghai Cooperation Organization. We had a very important intervention from Dr. Claude Biglet from his geopolitical, political, and business background. We had also a lot of ideas from Lenar Yakupov, who was also he was working in the government organizations. He is now chairing the venture fund, which is very important to bridge in GCC region, Gulf Cooperation Council, with the Greater Caspian region on the innovations. And thank you, Oscar, for your moderation. Oscar is a journalist. He was working for Forbes. He was working for GITEX, one of the directors of the GITEX. He is chairing the Global Stratalogs, and we are good friends with Oscar already for quite time. And I hope this session was interesting for the audience. It was recorded, that's why it will be available on YouTube very soon. And I welcome you for our next session, which will be at 2 p.m. Baku time or 12 12:00 it's a Central European time, dedicated to the trade corridors, digital infrastructure, AI, and regional cooperation. Because these are the pillars how our region will develop and already being developed. And we have a great speakers here, like Dr. Valentin Velichkov from Bulgaria, Franz Marti from Switzerland, Anar Yusufzada from Kobe, Azerbaijan, and Ayganim Kadrina from Kazakhstan, this subsidiary of Port Singapore, and will be moderated by Dr. Claude Biglet. Thank you very much for your participation, and see you in 2 hours and 10 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.